nothing would be working for you. Everything's hardwired except you, and you're working. Well, something's working, so let's just, before something bad happens, let's just 2022 in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. But again, don't know what's going on. The live stream, but his opinion was, if we continue to be Android specific focused, which again we have been, but we have diverted a bit because not every week is there. It's again which one will come first on the letterhead. So the difference between now, when the tech version is redirected to the Android version, it would just be the reverse. If you went to the Android with, this is the Techno Buffet podcast. Well, I told you, as I am not an expert on the matter, well, we're sorry to see you go. What will be happening to your Pixel 5? You still have the Evo 4G? Okay, I recycled a lot of that stuff. I'm just curious. Yeah, and you could turn it into like a camera. The problem is you can't really update the OS. So you are running a really insecure, unless you flash it with, let's say, a secondary ROM that might be able to get some security updates. That's the only reason why I don't want to hang on to a device too many versions back. Because it's not getting security updates. Well, no, the Evo 4G I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the Pixel. Oh, I thought you were still talking about the Evo 4G. Operating system. Again, there are compromises when you do that because nothing works perfectly because it's not really designed for vanilla Linux and you have to do a little tweaking, but again, it means the device is now secure again and can continue to be one that can be loaded onto a Pixel 5, but I haven't looked recently. It would be interesting, though. Back online here, so I'm now monitoring the weather again. My barometer has returned. As exciting as barometers are. Well, I love a good barometer. I found here in the Florida sun that if you have a sensor outside, you need some sort of shielding to prevent it from just heating up so much that it messes up the temperature readings. Okay. Yeah, I may have. I save it to that, and then I go through the night before and take all the articles that I saved and put them into the show notes. So here's where essentially send it directly into the site somehow, and it would assemble the show notes for me. I never did that. And any comment, because usually when a service is down for 6 hours, you expect, like, the person who runs it to say something, even if it's just my service. So that worries me about the long term. I feel like, I could always try emailing him directly because he has a support line. And so I have 44,000 bookmarks in Pinboard. And the majority of them are things that, I'm not talking about opening it up to anybody because that's unnecessary, but I don't want to delete it. And there are a few of them. There's Wallabag. Are you familiar with Wallabag? Pocket or one of those services, but you're hosting it yourself. You're an iOS person now. Instapaper. I have to use the right side. We'll see if anybody has any suggestions. The other one I thought of was Nextcloud Bookmarks, since I already am hosting a Nextcloud instance. Passes 110 million active devices. So this is monthly active. Set up at WireGuard and then connected to my Myth TV service using an Android TV device that I bought for $20 from Walmart.com television and play it for you. So there's a lot of potential integration and advantages. Whereas with Roku, but for now, I'm going to say I think Android TV has a chance if Google continues to iterate and advance on it. Are you going to get your... Well, yeah, and I want to talk more about Plex. Because, as I said, I've been working on Plex also. I've been working on cleaning up my media library on Plex. Because I do have one. Where he had the character who realized that the human race was irredeemably insane when he read the instructions on the back of... I should reread those books. I missed them. But anyway, a lot of things I should revisit. So, either way, toothpicks are technology, but... When I met you, you were smoking. Yeah, but the one time that I met you, you were still smoking. Yeah. So they are a assistive device for you in coping with this issue. No, in coping with the fact that you're trying to. Yeah, but you need something because just being realistic. And I know a lot of people who smoke, and I've tried. Other than the fact that probably should eat better, although who shouldn't? So where am I to say? So we all have things we think we should be doing in order. Well, my treadmill has an Android device in it also, except I built the new one, how to deal with things, and there are environmental things as well. Every year there's something going on. So apparently there's a potato shortage. I didn't read. I like them too. The final result would look like, but it's some of the things they've been working on, where let's say you're playing something on your phone, and by the way, you don't have to wait for this, because I believe why I'm saying maybe I will buy into Android TV, not immediately, but let's say on more devices instead of Roku in the future. So not getting rid of the Roku's QR quick setting tile, so you can go in there, press it and then do your QR scan, and also lock screen functionality where you can scan. QR code they can scan and look on their phone. Neither have I, but I haven't really been doing any sit-down eating. And I remember reading one where somebody was complaining that they had the menu, they had a menu board, but the menu board didn't have any prices, and you had to scan the QR code to actually find out what things cost. A few years ago, but you might have heard of similar stories in other places. They essentially cracked down on a bunch of restaurants in Chinatown, where they had two, this was consumer protection, they had two menus. The one in English had higher prices than the one in Chinese. Why? It's called discrimination. Again, they did not reveal this. The whole... Shouldn't it be the other way around? If you could... Shouldn't it be the other way around? If you can read this sign, your prices are going to be more expensive? No, the simple truth of the matter is, it regardless of why it is, it opens the door to all sorts of things that are unpleasant. So I believe organizations should be forthright with how they sell to the public. So if you're wondering what happened in that story, the city of New York said you have to disclose what you're doing to everybody who comes in. As in, if you're going to say that there's a discount for doing this, you have to tell everyone. So everybody has to have access to the same information. Again, which I think is better than our recently discussed conversation about them enforcing restaurants not giving you a straw unless you ask for it. Which, by the way, as I said, I think is a good idea, that restaurants don't give you something that you may not need. That is a waste. However, I'm not 100% sure that that's where the City Council of New York should be spending its time. Anyway, conversations about plastic straws and that aside, I think that there has to be some way to verify that a organization is not acting in an unfair way. And I've complained at places where the price that they rung up was not the price on the menu. Have you ever done that? Depends on the place. No, I'm saying it depends on the place. I've got into places where they argued and said, no, the computer is always right. I said, well, I bought the item with the understanding it would cost what the menu said. You didn't tell me the price was different before I actually bought it. So the other problem being, since in a restaurant, your bill that tells you what you paid shows up after you eat the food, you can't really say, I'm going to return this. Well, you can, but I don't think they want it anymore. So it puts you in this, again, bad position. But Android, again, recognizing that QR codes are becoming more important, wants to make better QR UIs. So good for them. Reading this article, I didn't even know that the camera app, how it worked with QR codes, because I always use Firefox, which has a scan a QR code button inside it. So I've never bothered to figure out how the camera app scans QR codes. Yeah. No, I have one of those too. I haven't made a QR code in a while. Have you? When was the last time you made a QR code? When I want to transfer something between devices, lately I've been just using the Firefox push. So I haven't needed a QR code in a while. But they come in handy sometimes. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh yes, the Google Play Store's system updates. So when the Play Store updates and it adds features to Android, they have now decided there will be a page where they will tell you what's new in their recent updates. So I honestly think that that's something people want. Well, again, openness. Well, I hate those. If all your changelog says is fixed bugs or improved, you're wasting my time. I don't need a novel, but it's nice if it just sort of says, well, this is going to run better. Or fixed crash in this type of system. So according to this, the January 2022 Google system update for the Play Store apparently put in a play as you download feature for gamers. They say new features to help you discover the apps and games you love, which is not really a helpful thing, but at least that's something. Optimizations, allowing faster and more reliable download and installation. New features to the Play Pass and Points programs, enhancements to billing, continuous improvement to Play Protect, and various performance optimizations, bug fixes, and improvements to security, stability, and accessibility, so not exactly perfect. And on the system management side, updates to the time zone management system added support for new daylight savings time transition changes in various countries. Yeah, updates to system management to improve device connectivity, network usage, stability, and security and updatability. Again, that doesn't really help me. But again, it's better than nothing. So I appreciate that they made the effort. Also, the December one was the one that had the critical fix for device connectivity. So I think that's was probably the fix for that whole Android 911 dialing problem. Moving along, there was an interesting article from Android Central where they were talking about the best food tracking apps for Android. And I want to talk about this because I still can't find one, even looking at their list. Because they recommended one that is essentially a local app, where you back it up to a local file that you can put somewhere else, which is fine with me. But the problem with it is that I have to enter in all my own data. So I want my account information to be under my control, but I don't want to have to enter in all my own calorie counts. So I can't find something that doesn't require me to make an account where they're going to try to sell me something. And also, I don't want a community engagement, so I don't want other people to share in what I'm eating. But we're back to still haven't found the right thing. And I should track what I'm eating more, because I find when I do that, I'm much more aware of it. Yeah, and I do it every so often as an exercise, and it does keep me on track for a while, but I'm still looking for a new way of doing it. Also, apparently, Google has started showing doorbell previews for supported doorbells, which none of the ones I have are, in the At a Glance widget. Well, again, I ended up in the Ring system, which to some degree I regret, but, in it. And they do rich notifications, so I can see what's going on without having to open up the app, but it's not in a widget. Yep. Well, the alternatives to Ring, if I were starting from scratch now, I probably would have gone with something that I had more local control over. But I'm already in this ecosystem. So, at the moment, I'm not going to replace it. Someday, maybe. If you are the Swiss Army, or if at least you're in the Swiss Army, you are no longer allowed to use WhatsApp. You must use Threema. So the Swiss Army claims that there are privacy concerns, so Army personnel are going to have to use Threema. Yeah, also Threema, and I tried it years ago. They, when you join up, you generate a key, and they essentially don't have access to your messages. And if you lose the key, neither do you. So it's like a PGP style thing. Moving along, Canon, the printer company, has apparently been telling its customers how to bypass the DRM warnings because they themselves cannot get the chips that do DRM on their ink. I think so. Well, the thing is, I find it sort of annoying that I have to pay extra money so that they can have a chip on there that prevents me from using competitors and stuff. Yeah, well, I used to, and I got rid of my inkjets a long time ago because of other problems. But I used to do Brother inkjets because they did not have a chip on them. They were just tanks. And I know Epson has its whole line of like Eco Tank where they have these gigantic tanks that last months. But the simple truth is, I don't know why other than possibly a sensor to know when it's empty, why it needs a chip. But the simple truth is that sensor could be built into the printer. And if the sensor dies, it could still be user replaceable. But the fact that every time you have to buy a print head and a chip in it and this whole thing and be replaced so that they can charge you more money, and then claim that it's in the use of making sure that the device is secure. If I choose to use third-party ink and it messes up my printer, they can deny me warranty replacement. But it's my business. Either way, they've apparently realized that they're going to have to tell people how to bypass genuine ink notifications. Yeah. Well, people already sort of knew how to do it. I was just noticing, and I haven't bought an HP in years either, that they noted in this article that apparently HP's ink DRM not only blocks non-DRM ink, but the ink is region locked, and they expect you to pay for a subscription to the ink. So that sounds like even worse. Anyway, so that's just why I switched to laser. Moving along. No. I'm still with Brother and they don't do that. That's why I don't buy HP. I like Brother. Yeah, I only do black and white because I print so rarely. Most of the time I'm printing documents. I decided years ago that if I really needed to print a picture, I will just send it to a place and have them print it for me on a professional grade printer and mail it to me. There are plenty of places that will do that. So I don't really need to maintain, multiple color inks. I just need something that can print out a document. So black and white's fine. So in another story, Wise, our favorite cheap security camera, has essentially their new Pay What You Want subscription apparently will accept $0. So this gets a bit complicated. So Wise has launched a Pay What You Want subscription for Cam Plus Lite, which is the light version of their Cam Plus product, which includes cloud recordings to 12 seconds and person detection. However, apparently they're going to be getting rid of any sort of free cloud service. So you will no longer be able to get any number of seconds if you don't pay them money. Or in this case, you choose to pay as little as $0 a month for it. I'm not sure how long they'll let you do $0 per month. I assume that that's eventually going to go away. Now, just to be fair to them, they did do one other thing as a sort of, I'm not going to say a compromise. Wise cams have always allowed micro SD cards to be installed for local storage. They've apparently acquired a license to support cards bigger than 32 gigabytes. And it's already in their V3, but they're going to be upgrading their V2, and apparently they're going to abandon their V1, which I can understand. It's 2 models back. But the other thing that they're going to do is they're going to improve the app interface for local storage. So they're saying that if you're using local storage, any event has a button that will take you directly to the appropriate timestamp so you can see the full event. using local storage, and they're adding 30-second rewind and skip forward buttons. So apparently they can't, and I understand why they can't let everybody indefinitely store video, because that's essentially a monthly cost to them, and that's after you've bought the device. So I think a compromise to say we're going to make sure that this device will work with local storage just as well as if you pay us to store it for you is an acceptable compromise. And you know my opinion of Wise. Namely, their biggest problem is they put out a good product and then they sort of abandon the software before all the bugs are fixed. And they're on to their next product. And it annoys me a lot. Yeah, but they promise things that they don't deliver. If the initial product had everything that they promised me, then I would... For example, I bought a Wise thermostat for here because they said that coming soon, remote temperature sensors. I still don't have my remote temperature sensors, but in the meantime, they put out a whole bunch of things I don't need. So, we'll see. Anyway, that brings me to the end of the things I noted, but now that next week our mandate is changing slightly to include all technology that falls under our areas of interest, which I believe would include home automation, home media, as we've talked about, Android, iOS, etc. We'll see what I'm able to add to the show notes next week. And I'll have to take some time and do the site rebranding. I will not be resetting the number, so next week will still be episode number 572. I don't think we should go back to 0. So any final thoughts, Jerry, before next week? I'm sure they make those. So until next week, when, as of my current plan, I will continue to be in the state of Florida. I've decided that I'm going to stay until the end of the month. Well, I would stay slightly longer, but if I could, but I believe I'm being called for jury duty in February. And I think not wanting jury duty. They called me when I was in Bulgaria and said that I had to come next week for jury duty, and I told them I'm in Bulgaria. So they give you one postponement. When the postponement came up, it was a Jewish holiday, so I told them that I would have come when they originally asked me to, because they told in January I told them I'd come in May, but the courts were closed in May, so they called me in September. And I told them, well, if you call me, I'm going to show up. I'm going to tell them there's a Jewish holiday tonight. They're going to release me, and we're going to have to start this all over again. So I'm asking, they said, well, then you have to come in February. I said, I don't want to trek through the snow to go to jury duty, but I don't have an excuse for that one, so I'm doing it. Unless they close the courts again. Well, what am I supposed to say? I don't want to go in the snow. I really don't want to go for jury duty for other reasons, because it's a pain in the neck, but it is my civic duty, so I will be doing it at the time that they designate. As long as... How is that possible? I don't know, maybe your county is... No, I'm just saying, I wonder why. They know you live in that county, right? Okay, I wonder why. No, I'm just saying I'm wondering why they don't know about you. I didn't think you weren't registered to vote. I thought there might be like an irregularity somewhere, some other thing, that they just, somehow you're not on the jury rolls. Must be a reason. Well, I believe you can actually call them and volunteer. But he didn't live in the state of Florida. Yeah, but he didn't live in the state of Florida, though. Oh, he was a resident? No, was he called? So he was called in Florida. He wasn't called in Texas. Okay, that's interesting. By the way, you can get called for jury duty after you're dead. Well, no, that's different. Voting after you're dead means that somebody else voted for you. Being called for jury duty means that the jury system didn't get the notice that you're not alive anymore. Two different things. One suggests malicious intent, the other does not. The other suggests bureaucratic foul-up. So which one is more likely? The failure of bureaucracy or malicious intent? Of course, when we're talking about... Yeah, I'm just saying in jury duty, who is faking something to get onto a jury? That sounds like a plot from a movie. It doesn't sound like something people do. Whereas, again, while the amount of people doing fake voting is, by most reports, comparatively small, it is something that definitely exists. Anyway, that aside, it means I'll be back in New York in February, and I can resume my media scanning and whatever else I'm going to do there. And I can stay here and try to figure out, using my computer, better ways to make show notes. We all need hobbies. Anyway, so that brings us to the end of the final, not the final episode of this podcast, but the final episode of this brand. So we'll see what I get to do. I will try to get everything done by the end of the weekend. If not, by the next episode, because it's just a matter of doing some rewrites. Although when you're rewriting things, it's always good to back everything up. So I'm going to thank everybody for their support of the classic brand as we move into the next generation brand, which looks exactly the same as the classic brand except for one word. Do not think that I will not keep talking about Android, and that we will not keep talking about home automation, the occasional 3D printing conversation, all the stuff we're talking about. Well, except yeah, and we'll talk a little about iOS. As I said, Jerry will have to take the lead because it's not, clearly I've read articles on iOS, but it's not my area of knowledge, so Jerry will have to share with me his experience, and it gives us an opportunity to talk about the differences between Android and iOS, as Jerry experiences the wonder of his transition. I feel like everybody's going over to the dark side. Oh well. Not specifically iOS, I meant like changing sides and like long-standing, this or that things. iOS versus Android is just one of the many things in my life where I feel people are always going over to the side that I'm not on. So until next week, I don't know, is anything interesting happening between now and next week? Not that I can think of, but if something interesting is happening... that's the 27th. Okay. Well, enjoy yourself. I'll be available, but without anybody. Which one this time? Okay. No, I wasn't sure if it. I wasn't sure if it was a place you'd been to before or a place you hadn't been to before. So enjoy Vancouver. I have only been to the train station, as I've mentioned before, but that was enough. So have a nice flight. Which airline are you taking? Okay. Well, good luck. I know most airlines have been having staffing problems lately because of various things, and hopefully your flight is not affected by that. Also, hopefully you don't end up in the same situation I did with the 4-hour delay at the airport and the 4 a.m. arrival. While that does happen sometimes, it's never fun when it happens to you. Yeah, well, I didn't blame JetBlue. I would have liked to have blamed JetBlue, but pretty much every flight at the airport that night was delayed to some degree. Okay. Good night, Jerry. But the same logo. Yeah, this is just us reflecting the changing times. The world has it's been what now? Nearly 12 years. The world has changed, and we must change with it. On that note, to the future, Jerry. That's a good ending.